How are you this morning? Woo! It's right. It's hot. How awesome is it that the sun is out? Yes. I see a lot of wave your hands like you just don't care there. Yes. So this weekend was one of those weekends, maybe you've had it, where you would almost say it was restful, but it was productive. Have you ever had one of those? Everyone's like, maybe. I think Caleb said, Mom, we had a breakfast at 12:30 and we got so much done today. I'm like, no, honey, that's called brunch. How many of you right now, currently in your life, not good or bad, just it is what it is, are at a crossroads in your life? I see hands, I see the shaking of heads. Yeah, we've been talking about fresh starts as we go into the new year, and sometimes that comes with crossroads. Things you've been thinking about, winter it's been dormant, you've been less active, it's rolling around in your head like marbles, and you know spring's coming and it just starts to creep up and creep up and creep up. And for me, I go into clean mode. I need to clean something, organize something. I need to make sense of those marbles in my head. Any of you are there? Oh, actually more hands than I thought. Okay, I don't feel so bad. This is good. This is good. Well, yesterday was one of those days where we were lazy, but we also got up and we got in those cleaning modes of setting the marbles straight. So the crossroads, as I sat downstairs, and those of you that have been at my house, it's half playroom, half office. And I was downstairs sitting in the midst of Barbies, little critters, American Girl doll, and Legos. And we were packing up the toys. Yeah, that season when they're done playing with the toys, they're going to be 18, they just turned 12, and we're making those decisions like, Mom, let's pack this up for my kids. No, Mom, let's give this to Goodwill. Mom, this is garbage. I don't even know what the pieces are to this. How many of you have been there? And then there was the season of Caleb's going to graduate Placer, and he's going to college. So, Mom, I need a box to put my new Keurig in and these things that are going to my college dorm. And you're turning my room into an office, so where's the rest of my things going? And I just sat there with those crossroads, and I felt sad. I didn't think I'd be one of those moms. I thought I'd be one of those moms like, peace out, yeah, I'm turning that office into a craft room. And so I was talking with Jeff, and I'm like, why am I so sad? And he's like, well, when you left your house at 18 with $300 in a minivan with no college in sight, you were running away. We're sending him. We've raised him for this moment to go out into the world. What does that future look like when it's just Jeff, I, and Charlotte? No more Caleb coming home with a bunch of friends, eating all my food on lunch break. No more 5 pizzas to order. And Charlotte said, well, you could send him the difference of the grocery bill for college. She's my little future finance planner. What crossroads do you guys have in front of you? Is it your job? Is it your health? Is it taking care of your parents? Is it your children? Your marriage? Every day, every year, we're faced with these crossroads. And they look different. I'm not unique. I'm not special. I have stuff. You guys have stuff. So when we encounter these decisions, multiple times we've been at crossroads in our life. Some of them I've just responded to haphazardly. Some of them I've been very strategic about. Some of them I never wanted to be at. Have you been there? But as Christians, as followers, as believers, we're supposed to trust the Word. We're supposed to believe the stories and the Word and the Scriptures and the many that have gone before us in their journey with the Lord to give us wisdom. How many of you, when you say the word wisdom and Bible character, how many of you think of Solomon? Yes. You guys remember Solomon in Kings? He was known for his incredible wisdom, and God appeared to him in a dream. And in this dream, he offered him anything he desired. I'm like, sign me up for that dream. How many of you would love if God just came before you and said, what's the one thing you desire? How many of it would just come out of your mouth? How many of you would have so many things come to your brain you wouldn't be able to get one out of your mouth? And how many of you would be so overwhelmed at that extravagantness, if that's even a word, that you wouldn't even know what to say? And Solomon knew, and he recognized the weight of his responsibility as the king of Israel. And he asked for wisdom. And as I was reading this, I was thinking, that's not even something tangible that comes to my mind. When I think if God asked me for one thing, if I could have one thing, I think of stuff, I think of finances, I think of health. I don't think of a non-tangible thing like wisdom. But how smart, how wise. And God saw this, and he was proud, and he honored him wisdom. And yet with that wisdom came wealth and honor. You love how God gives you something, and you're so happy about this thing, and then it gives you the ripple of that thing. I am so thankful for that every single day of my life. And you know what the one thing is? Someone said there is a man named Jesus, and he loves you, and he died on the cross for you. Everything I'm thankful for after comes from that one moment. See, Solomon's decision to seek godly wisdom sent him on a path. It sent his reign on a path. It influenced. It poured into him. It spoke to him. It shaped him. It shaped his judgments, his decisions, his actions, his non-actions. The construction of the temple and big picture overall legacy. So when we stand at our crossroads, whatever that is, picture your crossroads. You have it locked in, what your crossroads are? That thing that you're mulling over and over and over. Proverbs 1:7a says, "Fear the Lord, for the fear of the Lord is the foundation of true knowledge." It is the compass that points us in the right direction. How many of you need to get your compass out? Not in the glove box, not in your purse, not in the closet. So what is the foundation of wisdom? What is at the core of that? There are times in decision-making that we have to anchor ourselves in the fear of the Lord. And that's like a weird statement to say. But I'm not talking about the trembling, anxiety, fear, shiver, being small. But I'm talking about the fear of the Lord and his reverence, of deep respect of the Lord. I know that I didn't have that so much for my parents, a deep respect. It was like how much I wanted to deal with the consequences kind of respect. But when I see my husband's family and the three boys, the three brothers, they had deep respect for their parents. And they didn't want to dishonor them. They didn't want to disrespect them. They didn't want to let them down. And it was deep, sometimes maybe in an unhealthy way. But they had a deep respect. So then Proverbs 1:7 says, "Fear of the Lord is the foundation of true knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline." I'm just going to have a confession right now. I have been a fool. There are times when I have been a fool and I don't want discipline and I don't want wisdom in my life, and I'm going to own it and be honest about it. I don't know if that's always worked out too well for me. So the foundation of wisdom and truth begins with acknowledging God's sovereignty. When I think of that, I think of Moses not even being able to be barefoot. Sovereign. In decision-making, we approach our choices our responses, our actions, our judgments with a heart attuned to the reverence and the fear of the Lord. We position ourselves to openly receive divine wisdom. So when we go and we talk about a fresh start, here's our fresh start, the new year, fresh start at these crossroads that you may have. A fresh start demands that we reset our perspective and our priorities. That's why going to the gym all of a sudden, because it's 2024, is so hard. Because if I have to get up early, I'm not doing it. If I have to go after dinner, I'm not going to feel very good. If I have to give up that hour, well, what could I have done in that hour? That's what makes it hard. Because I have to be willing to reset my priorities to be able to get in the new habit of going to the gym on a regular basis. I did it 1 week. It was awesome. I haven't been back. You laugh because I'm not the only one. What about your perspectives? I have to change my perspective as my role as mom to Caleb. He's going to be 18. He's going to be making decisions, good, bad, ugly, all of them. And I have to let him go be out in the world and let other people on a daily basis, day in and day out, without processing at the dinner table, to speak into him. I have to change that perspective, and I'm just quite frankly not happy about it. It's really hard for me. So embracing the fear of the Lord allows us to release. And I'm just one of those people that I just don't do it. I'm thinking about it. I think I want to. I really want to. My heart says I want to. And then I have to have like the worst terrible cry to let it all out, to actually be able to surrender my heart, to let God be God in my life and let him be the guidance. Psalm 19:9, reverence for the Lord is pure, lasting forever. The laws of the Lord are true, and each one is fair. How many things in life are fair? Not a lot. Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. One of my favorite scriptures. So discerning right from wrong. In the journey of faith, we often find ourselves in this navigation. There's the good, there's the bad, there's the right, there's the wrong, and then there's all this lines in between and all the gray, which, let's face it, sometimes we go with that constantly because it's easier. It's not right or wrong, it's just right. Goldilocks. We need to equip ourselves with the practical tools. I always tell my kids, it's my job to give you the tools. But what you do with them is really up to you. I can't force anyone to use the tools. I can get up week after week and say, read your word daily. I can't make you. But my heart is that we would seek wisdom in a world that has all this moral confusion, all this upside down, all this chaos, all this hurt, all this loss. Hurting people hurt people. It's all out there. And we say the world, and we instantly think outside these walls, or we think of the globe. How about around your dinner table, under your roof, in your contacts on your phone? How about right here in this room? The scriptures serve as a guiding light, and they provide clarity and direction. And I love that when I don't know, I can say to myself, I don't have to know. I can seek God. I can be in prayer. Proverbs 2:6, for the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. I may not always like it. I may always try to tweak it to fit my knowledge and understanding. But the word is always true. God is the ultimate authority. He knows everything. He created us with a purpose. His wisdom allows us to discern right from wrong in a world that wants us to sometimes live in gray. I desperately want God's wisdom. I desperately want it in so many areas of my life. I want it as a wife. I want it as a mom. I want it as a pastor. I want it as a woman of God. Because I already know from history that when I do things my way and in my wisdom, I fall flat on my face almost every time. Or maybe I don't fall flat on my face, but it works out just enough. But not the way God works things out. We need to make reading the Bible a daily practice. Technology's made that easy. It's an app. You can have it in any version or scripture that you want it in. We gain insight. We gain wise counsel. We gain an idea of what is a godly right and wrong. This would be a tool. The word would be a tool you would want in your tool belt at all times. When my grandma knows, and I don't know how she knows, but she always knows when I'm calling to vent. And she instantly tells me, no, I'm not talking. We're hanging up. Get on your knees and you vent it out to the Lord. I know, just let me tell you this one thing. No, vent it out to the Lord. Best advice ever. Because fostering a habit of prayer specifically, sometimes we think of prayer as the to-do list, the vending machine, all the things we want, the genie lamp. But if we seek God in prayer for wisdom, for decision-making, for discernment before we act, it might go a little bit better. Because God promises to grant wisdom to those who ask. There seems to be a theme in the Bible sometimes. Ask and you shall. Ask for wisdom. Why do we not ask? Why are we not vulnerable? Why do we not speak truth in our prayer life? James 1:5, if you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. Have you as a parent have told your kids that? Just ask. Maybe it's yes, maybe it's no. I try to be a mom that says yes most of the time. Generous God. I don't know. I've asked myself this. Of all the things he's given me, I feel like I have an extravagant God when I look at all the things in my life. But if I didn't look at the stuff, or my beautiful children, or health, or my amazing husband, when life seems down and hard, and you feel like you're begging God, you're like, God, I've asked you, I'm like begging you, and it still doesn't come. And I start to have that record play in your head, like, God doesn't see me. God's not hearing me. I must be doing something wrong. That's it. He's punishing me. How many of you have that record? Just stop. He gave his son on a cross. How extravagant and generous is that? That he gave his son on a cross that we would know him. We're to bring our prayers and our dilemmas to God. We're to ask. We're to seek him. We're to be vulnerable. We're to be broken. We can be all the hot mess and all the perfection that we think we're bringing. We can bring it. But do we trust him? As the body of Christ, we need to live in accountability. Ugh, I am not a fan of that word sometimes. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one. But find someone in the body of Christ. We talked about this last week. Find a mentor. Find a friend. Find a friend who is poured into the Bible, who stands firm in the Word, who is not going to feed your Dr. Phil show, who is going to trust the Lord with you and pray with you every step of the way, who's going to support you and give you different perspectives, who's going to say to you, I'm so sorry you're going through this hard time. I can see that it's wearing. Let's go to this altar and pray together. I'm going to pray in the gap for you. I'm going to pray because you're angry, and you go ahead. You be so angry at God, but I'm going to be in the gap, and I'm going to pray for you. Find someone who loves you enough to call you out on your stuff. Someone you're going to give permission to call you out on your stuff. Find someone who will pour into you and help you make wisely decisions. That's a lot of power to ask someone to call you out on your stuff. That's also a huge honor that they would trust you to say, please hold me accountable in a godly, loving way and want me to be better than I am. I have many mentors in my life throughout different journeys of ministry and being a Christian that have poured into me, that have loved me, that have told me hard truths, who have told me things that I didn't want to hear, that made me a better person, that made me closer to God, that made me get out of my funk and draw closer to Him. We have to navigate these challenges. No one's exempt. Everyone in here has something. It may be really, really, really bad. It may be not so bad. They may have the best season of their life right now, and they're on cloud 9. We're all in different spaces. But we live in a world that's declining in some ways, yeah. And we need confidence and discernment in the Lord to carry on our tool belt. Don't wait till after. I've tried to share that with my kids. Like, there's lessons that hit you right in the face, and you're like, man, I didn't see that coming. I did not realize I was making that mistake. But then if you can turn from it and say, I'm going to learn from that, that mistake is completely worth it. Because now you have a tool. We need to position ourselves to live out our faith authentically. I think sometimes in church it gets so easy to be like, I'm fine, I'm good, it's been great, have a great week. And you go home and you're like, I'm so not fine. We don't have to be fake. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to have it all together. It's okay to have a bad week. It's okay to have a bad minute in your life. I think in our Bible study on Tuesday, what was the question? It was not how are you doing, but if you could be doing anything, what would it be? What would you do if you could do anything this week? What would it be? So be teachable. Any interview I've ever been to, I am super smart to say, I am a teachable person. Humility emerges as a key component in this decision making. Are we humble? Being open to God's guidance, not always having it to all together, not always in my will and my great wisdom and my self-help book or the 5 things I read on Pinterest to the next great life. Having a teachable spirit invites. It welcomes. It's an open door for God to mold us, for God to shape us, and more importantly, to shape our decisions. We talked about King Solomon asking for wisdom. Proverbs 16:20, those who listen to instruction will prosper. Those who trust the Lord will be joyful. Those who trust the Lord will be joyful. Do we walk around with a joy in our heart, with a joy in our attitude, with a joy in our outlook? Maybe at the root, if we asked ourselves, do we trust the Lord? Solomon was known for his wisdom and started by acknowledging his own inadequacies. I remember when I was installed almost 3 years ago as the lead pastor of this church, being first-time lead pastor, complete rookie. Yeah, I've been in ministry 15 years. It's a whole new ballgame at this level. And I remember saying, do not put me on a pedestal. I am human. I am Michele Dickerson, the daughter of a king, and I have a human life just like you, and I'm going to make mistakes. So there, now we know. Be willing to say, I'm wrong. Be willing to say, I don't know. His journey teaches us that true wisdom begins with recognizing our dependence on God. Moses, another great example, a leader chosen by God, demonstrated his humility and despite his position of authority. Numbers 12:3. Now Moses was very humble, more humble than any other person on earth. That's in the Word. This little phrase. Moses was very humble. I thought, man, I hope at my celebration of life or memorial service, someone says that. That's like very honorable for someone to say about you, they were a very humble person. See, his humility opened the door for God's wisdom. He guided the Israelites through challenge after challenge after challenge. They were complaining, they were whining, they were unhappy, it was hard. And yet he kept saying, God, here I am. God, lead me. God, through me, lead your people. I find inspiration when the people in the Bible aren't perfect. That might be a kind of a sick thing. But I find it inspiring that the people in the Bible were human, that they made mistakes, and yet in the Bible they're heroes, they're honored, they're the greats. And yet they were human and fallible. We need to embrace a teachable spirit and acknowledge our limitations. We have them. We all have them. Some are easy. We're like, when you go to an interview and they're like, what's your weakest things? You're like, boom, 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 3, boom. But what about when you're really vulnerable? The ones you think you cover up. The things that you think people don't see. We need to trust the Lord in wisdom that will lead us to better godly decisions. We have to desire and recognize and be open to our need for instruction. Proverbs 16:20. Those who listen to instruction will prosper. Those who trust the Lord will be joyful. I want to be joyful. I want to go through this life so full of joy. Because when I think about my life being so full of joy, I feel like what would be absent is stress and worry. And if that was the case, then that would mean I truly surrendered it all to the Lord. Fear the Lord, Proverbs 15:33, fear of the Lord teaches wisdom. Humility precedes honor. When we fear the Lord, when we honor him, when we have that reverence for him, when we have that humility, we're ready to hear him. We're ready to receive. And that's why I'm one of those stubborn learners, because I have to exhaust myself to be then so tired and so done of fighting and so tired of doing it my way that I'm then ready. And that probably is not a great pastor trait, but it's the truth. And then I say, okay, Lord, wouldn't it be nice if I didn't have to get to that point? When my daily decisions, big and small, I lived openly and ready for the Lord to work. As I was going through college letters and newspaper articles and bibs for running and medals, and I thought, Lord, give me the strength to trust you with him. Let me trust what you have for him. Close every single door, close every single college except for the one you're going to be in, and you're going to speak to him every day that he's there. My heart was breaking. But then I thought of Solomon, and I thought, okay, Lord, I trust you, And I am going to pray for my son to have wisdom with the friends, with the choices, with the places he goes, his finances. Lord, I'm going to pray for wisdom. I'm going to hold on to Solomon and Moses, and I'm going to pray for wisdom. I'm going to pray that my son will remember everything we poured into him. I'm going to pray that my son remembers every person in this church that loves him and prays for him and encourages him and shows up at those meets because we're a family. I'm going to pray that Caleb is teachable to the Holy Spirit every single day, because that's what I can do. I can let go, and I can stand in the gap, and I can pray for him to remain teachable in the Spirit. See, the fear of the Lord serves as the foundation. It serves as a compass. I think sometimes with all the things we have in the world, we don't have that fear anymore. We don't have that reverence anymore. We don't have that dependency because we can do it pretty much from a phone. We think we're so in control. We think we have so much power that he's not our compass. We're not staying teachable. So if we apply the word, a mentor, prayer, it will set our compass. It will remind us of seeking him in wisdom, discernment, which is rooted in who he is, which then leads us to know like we know right from wrong. James 3:17, but the wisdom from above is first of all pure. It also is peace-loving, gentle, and willing to yield to others. It is full of mercy and the fruit of good deeds. It shows no favoritism and is always sincere. I love this verse. This is one of those verses you put on the bathroom mirror, put in your visor in your car, make it your phone saver, screensaver. Peace-loving, gentle at all times, and willing to yield to others. Solomon asked for wisdom. We need wisdom. We're at crossroads. We all raise our hands, different crossroads, whatever yours is. So we have these altars here. And for those of you that can, able, want to, you can make your chair an altar. Some of you turned around and used it as an altar. Some of you can just sit and lay out. But we're going to have a minute of time at the altars, because we need to pray for wisdom. And I'm giving you an opportunity so you don't say tomorrow or in my devotion time, or I'll think about that this week, or I'll think about it. Thinking about something, a passing thought, is not surrendering and asking. That's not time with the Lord, thinking about it. So I want to open these altars to have a time to ask for wisdom, to lay out your crossroads, to be free of it, to let the marbles go, to not hold it in your shoulders and in your arms and in your body, to not let it mull over and it gets twisted in dreams and nightmares, but that we would right now lay it at the altar. So I'm going to open the altars. If you guys come, I'll have sound run a slow background song, doesn't matter what. And as people come, I have two things. There'll be a membership class coming up in a weekly afternoon. So if you're interested in that, text me or call me or fill out a card, put it in the box in the back. And then for all the children's ministry volunteers that are headed to a training after this, it'll be in room 230, not the youth room, in room 230. Okay? We're going to close in prayer, but we're just going to have time to just think, just pray, just surrender those crossroads. and we're going to have music, and then I will close us in prayer.